Margaret Maggie Dubois had wiped down the same oak counter every morning for 37 years. The wood had darkened under her rag like a river stone smoothed by water. At 64, she still arrived at 5:15 a.m., flipped the switch on the ancient espresso machine that hissed like an old friend complaining about the weather, and set out the day's pastries in the glass case. The café, simply called Grounds, sat on the corner of Maple and First in downtown Elmwood, a town most maps forgot between bigger cities. People came for the coffee, stayed for Maggie's quiet way of remembering exactly how you took it even if you hadn't been in for 6 months. She wore the same uniform every day, a faded blue apron over a white blouse, sleeves rolled to the elbows, hair pulled into a silver bun with 2 pencils stuck through it for emergencies. No makeup beyond a touch of rose on her cheeks. No jewelry except her late husband Daniel's thin gold wedding band on a chain around her neck. Customers called her Miss Maggie. The young ones thought she was sweet. The old ones knew better but never said why. Only a handful of people on Earth understood that Maggie Dubois owned the entire downtown block, 3 shopping plazas on the edge of town, 2 office buildings in the capital 90 miles away, and licensing rights to a coffee shop franchise model used in 17 states. The empire had no flashy sign, no press releases, no Instagram account. It had only quiet, relentless decisions made at 5 a.m. while the rest of the world slept, and nobody, not even her daughter Lauren, knew. Lauren arrived at 7:45 a.m. on a crisp October Thursday, pushing the door open with her hip while balancing her toddler on one arm. "Mom, you have to meet Brandon's new pitch deck." "It's genius," Maggie smiled, already pouring Lauren's oat milk latte without being asked. "Morning, sweetheart, how's little Daniel?" "Fussy, like his father when he doesn't get his way." Lauren laughed, but there was tension in it. Brandon followed a moment later, phone in hand, filming a reel. "Good morning, Grounds fam," he said to the camera, voice bright and practiced. "We're here supporting local small business owners. Remember, every dollar you spend here stays in the community for now." Maggie's rag paused on the counter for half a second, then she kept wiping. Brandon was 36, tall, teeth whitened to an unnatural glow, hair styled with product that smelled like expensive citrus. He called himself a thought leader, an ecosystem architect. His Instagram had 187,000 followers who believed he was about to revolutionize how people worked and drank coffee at the same time. He wore hoodies that cost $400 and quoted people who had never met him. He leaned across the counter and kissed Maggie on the cheek. "How's my favorite mother-in-law?" "Still standing," Maggie said mildly. Lauren set the toddler down to play with the wooden trains Maggie kept in a basket. "Brandon's idea is perfect, Mom. Co-working spaces combined with artisanal coffee. Work, brew. Connect. He wants to call the first location Grounds Collective. We'd renovate this whole block. It would be huge for Elmwood." Maggie poured herself a small black coffee and sipped it. "This block already has businesses. Mrs. Alvarez has her yarn shop. Mr. Park has the pharmacy. People have leases." Brandon waved a hand. "We'd relocate them. Modern leases, better terms. It's a win-win. And you, Maggie, you'd finally get to retire. We'd buy you out at fair market value. Think about it. No more 5M shifts. You could travel, spoil your grandkids." Maggie looked at him over the rim of her cup. "I like 5M, the pressure built slowly, the way good coffee blooms." At first it was casual suggestions. Then it was Sunday dinners where Brandon showed spreadsheets on his iPad. Then it became late-night texts to Lauren that Maggie accidentally saw when her daughter left her phone on the counter. "She's being stubborn. Small business owners get attached. We need to push harder." Maggie read the message, set the phone down gently, and went back to kneading bread dough at 10 p.m. The rhythmic thump of her fists against the floured surface sounded like distant thunder. She had built the empire after Daniel died of a heart attack at 52. No life insurance windfall, just the café, a mountain of medical debt, and a 3-year-old daughter who needed stability. Maggie had worked 18-hour days, then started quietly buying adjacent buildings when they came up for sale. She learned commercial real estate at night from library books. She created a simple franchise model, efficient layout, community-first ethos, profit-sharing for baristas, and licensed it without ever putting her own name on marketing materials. Every contract went through a quiet lawyer in the capital, every LLC layered into another. She became invisible on purpose, and now her son-in-law wanted to bulldoze 37 years of careful work so he could film more reels. 2 months passed, Christmas came and went. Brandon's soft launch campaign for Grounds Collective gained traction online. He started bringing influencers into the cafe for photos, posing them next to the old espresso machine like it was ironic Dacre. Maggie smiled for the pictures. She always smiled. One cold January evening after closing, Lauren sat at the counter while Maggie counted the till. Mom, Brandon has investors lined up. They're ready to move if you agree. They love the location, prime downtown, walkable, great bones. Maggie snapped a rubber band around a stack of 20s. And if I don't agree, Lauren looked uncomfortable. They're talking about other sites, but this block is perfect. Brandon says the whole vision falls apart without it. Maggie closed the register. Then maybe the vision isn't as strong as he thinks. The public event was scheduled for Valentine's Day. Brandon called it the future of grounds. He rented the entire café for the evening, hired caterers, brought in ring lights, and invited local press, city council members, and 2 venture capitalists from out of state. Streamers hung from the ceiling. A banner proclaimed Grounds Collective coming soon. Maggie wore her usual blue apron. She served coffee like it was any other day. Brandon stood on a small platform near the pastry case, microphone in hand, hair perfect under the lights. 37 years ago, a humble woman named Maggie Dubois opened this little café with nothing but a dream and a great cup of coffee, he said, voice warm and rehearsed. The crowd murmured approval. Today we honor that legacy by taking it to the next level. With your support and Maggie's blessing, we're going to transform this entire block into a hub of creativity, connection, and community. Maggie, come on up here, the crowd clapped. Lauren gave her mother an encouraging smile. Maggie walked up slowly, wiping her hands on her apron. Cameras flashed. Brandon put an arm around her shoulders like they were old partners. Tell them, Maggie, he said, handing her the microphone. Tell them you're ready for this next chapter. Maggie looked out at the faces. Mrs. Alvarez from the yarn shop, Mr. Park, young baristas she had trained. Her daughter holding little Daniel, eyes hopeful. She took the microphone. Thank you, Brandon, she said, voice calm and warm. This cafe has been my home for 37 years. Every scratch on this counter has a story. Every regular has a name I remember. Soft applause. But I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. The room quieted. Maggie reached into her apron pocket and pulled out a single folded document. She opened it slowly. This building, the 3 on either side, the parking lot behind us, and the 2 plazas on Route 14, they're all mine. Not for sale, not for redevelopment. The leases you've been quietly approaching my tenants with. They were never going to be broken. I own the land, I own the buildings, and I own the franchise concept you're planning to use. Brandon's smile froze. Maggie continued, gentle as ever. Grounds Collective is a lovely name. Unfortunately, you cannot use it. The trademark was filed 17 years ago by me. She looked directly at Brandon. I also own 41% of the venture fund that has been promising you seed money. They called me yesterday. The term sheet has been withdrawn. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Lauren's face went pale. Mom, Maggie handed the microphone back to Brandon, whose hand was now trembling. I love you, Lauren, Maggie said softly, loud enough for the microphones to catch. I will always support your family, but I will not let anyone tear down what I built with my own hands so they can film it for likes. She stepped off the platform, untied her apron, and hung it on its usual hook behind the counter. The ring lights stayed on. No one moved. Maggie looked at the crowd. We're closing early tonight, folks. Coffee's on the house. Come back tomorrow at 6 a.m. like always. Some things don't need reinventing. She walked upstairs to her apartment above the shop, closed the door, and sat down at the old kitchen table where she had made every major decision of her life. For the first time in 37 years, she cried, not from sadness, from relief. Brandon tried everything. He posted tearful apology videos that only made him look worse. He threatened lawsuits. His investors vanished. The city council, many of whom had known Maggie since they were children buying penny candy at the drugstore, quietly backed her. Lauren came upstairs 3 days later, alone. Mom, I didn't know. I know you didn't, sweetheart. Why didn't you ever tell me? Maggie poured 2 cups of tea. Because I wanted you to choose your life, not my money. I wanted you to marry for love, not leverage. I wanted you to see me as your mother, not an ATM with an apron. Lauren sat down, tears falling. Brandon's gone. He left last night, said he needs to rebrand in Austin. Maggie reached across the table and took her daughter's hand. Good, you and Daniel deserve better than a man who measures people by their follower count. 6 months later, grounds looked exactly the same. The yarn shop still sold its colorful skeins. The pharmacy still had the best milkshakes in town. And every morning at 5:15, Maggie Dubois flipped the switch on the old espresso machine. Only now Lauren worked the counter beside her 3 mornings a week, learning the business the way her mother had, slowly, honestly, 1 perfect cup at a time. Little Daniel toddled between tables, pushing his wooden trains. And on quiet afternoons, when the sun slanted through the big front windows and dust motes danced in the light, Maggie would sometimes catch her reflection in the old chrome toaster. She would smile at the woman looking back, silver hair, laugh lines, blue apron, and whisper the same thing she had whispered for decades, still standing. Epilogue: a year later, a slick magazine wanted to do a profile. The woman who said no to millions. Maggie politely declined. Instead, she expanded the barista profit-sharing program. She quietly paid off the mortgage on Mrs. Alvarez's building. She took Lauren and Daniel to Paris for 2 weeks and let her granddaughter eat all the croissants she wanted. And every evening after closing, she sat on the small balcony above the café, looked out over the downtown block she had protected, and sipped a cup of decaf. Some empires are built with noise and spotlights. Hers was built with patience, rag, and respect for the people who just wanted a good cup of coffee and a kind word. And that, Maggie Dubois believed, was more than enough.